With less than a week to polling day in Malaysia, coalition strongholds and parties are pulling out all the stops to shore up support. But campaigning has taken a back seat in many states, where heavy flooding has forced thousands to flee their homes. Voter apathy has also become a major issue confronting candidates. For more, CNA's Melissa Goh joins us live from Sungai Buloh in Selangor. Mel, there seems to be a distinct lack of excitement in the lead up to GE15. Why?
I mean, that could be due to a combination of factors. The prevailing monsoon rain that started earlier than expected in November. And in fact, some parts of Malaysia already gripped by flash floods from northern state of Kedah all the way to southern state of Johor, as well as the east coast too. Now, some rallies were cancelled due to the bad weather. Others still forging ahead, campaigning in the rain. In fact, voters too, some of them, they were out in umbrellas, in their raincoats, braving the rain for the nightly rallies, especially if the political bigwigs or the heavyweights are speaking. But the mood is rather subdued this round, I must say, compared to the last election in 2018. Back then, voters were angry, they were agitated. There's this giant 1MDB scandal and the hugely unpopular GST. Now, Kuala Lumpur was like a pressure cooker waiting to explode. That's how BN Deputy Chairman Muhammad Hassan described it back then. Now, indeed, campaigning this round, especially over at the Barisan Nasional, the BN front, it was off to a rather slow start, unlike its rivals Pakatan Harapan and Perikatan Nasional that appeared a lot more prepared and organized. But this week, things are looking set to pick up, with BN bigwigs like Hishamuddin, the defense minister, on the ground campaigning. Indeed, UMNO is trying very hard to put on a brave and united front here amid reports of sabotage, of the big names were dropped from contesting. But its Deputy President, Muhammad Hassan, this afternoon said he's unfazed. He's talking up BN's chances in this election. Let's take a listen.
People already decided 2-3 years ago who they want to vote. Kita ada head count, kita dah buat dengan tepat. Kita punya tugas pada hari pengundian pada 19 bulan itu nanti adalah merupakan tugas mengeluarkan pengundi yang telah kena pasti yang akan bersama dengan kita. Saya yakin Barisan Nasional will cross the bridge, insyaAllah.
Also arriving shortly here, Prime Minister Ismail Sabri, who's back from his home state, Pahang. He's in KL. He will be rallying support for caretaker Health Minister Khairi Jamaluddin, who's battling a very tough seat here in Sungai Buloh. It's a 7-corner fight, and Mr. Ismail has just declared polling day and eve of public holiday. Motorists won't have to pay toll as well when they return to their home states to vote.
Now, BN needs to get into gear fairly soon because a new survey suggests what you were just saying, that the opposition coalition PH is enjoying strong support.
Well, it was a survey of just over 1,000 voters aged 18 and above across all states in Peninsular Malaysia by a rather reputable pollster, Merdeka Center. Now, the survey was done before campaigning began on November 3rd, all the way to November 11th, the latest survey. Now, the opposition, Pakatan Harapan, yes, is said to be pulling ahead by a big margin with 99 seats of the 222 parliamentary seats up for grabs, while Barisan Nasional is said to be trailing behind with just 32 seats, less than rival Perikatan Nasional. The survey is basically done across the board, and BN indeed has a lot of catching up to do. In Sungai Buloh, where caretaker health minister is contesting, it's still neck and neck. So it's a mixed bag, and it's too early to call because anything can happen. The weather is so unpredictable, and there's still 5 more days to go, Jill, before polling.
Anything can happen indeed. Melissa Goh speaking to us live in Sungai Buloh, Selangor.
That survey we just referred to puts the cost of living crisis and enhancing economic growth top of the list of voter concerns. Let's talk more about Malaysia's economy with Cassey Lee. He's Senior Fellow at the ISEAS-Yusof Ishak Institute. Good evening, Cassey. The cost of living, the fact that it's rising in Malaysia, it's tough for Malaysians, and the cost of living is rising elsewhere as well. But what's your take on what's being promised by the parties in their manifestos in order to tackle inflation?
Well, I mean, cost of living is probably at the top of the agenda if you look at all the election manifestos. The most sort of like aggressive approach has been proposed by Barisan Nasional, who has actually offered a sort of income support, a monthly income support for households that are below the poverty line. This is radically different from what was done in the past, because what was done in the past was that you are given a sort of like a cash transfer, lump sum, in several phases. So this income support is a very, very strong incentive, I think, if voters understand what it actually means. None of the other political coalition has come close to offering something sort of so attractive.
The questions will be who's going to pay for those incentives at the same time, Cassey. But political watchers, some of them, they say that the rising cost of living, the effects of that might translate into lower votes for the incumbent government. They might punish them for that. What's your take on that?
That's definitely true. I've looked at the statistics in the last two elections, actually. When you have a high inflation, usually the incumbent government, in the case Barisan Nasional, the vote for them actually declines when it's high inflation. Whether this incentive is enough to offset this kind of effect, it remains to be seen, I think. Whether the politicians can put forward the message, I think.
Well, subsidies aside, Cassey, the economy is projected to slow through next year as well. There are issues with jobs, good jobs specifically. What do you think is going to happen in terms of how the voters are going to measure up to what parties have said in their manifesto as far as that's concerned, what they're going to do about creating better jobs, better paying jobs specifically?
Well, there's a lot of, if you look at the economic statistics, the economy has been slowing down, actually. In fact, from the fourth quarter of last year, if you look at the quarter-to-quarter figures. And although the labor market has actually recovered significantly compared to when you had sort of severe downturn during the pandemic, the labor market has not fully recovered in terms of median wages for some age category, for example. Unemployment amongst youth, for example, is still relatively higher than what you find before the pandemic.
Cassey, thank you very much.
In terms of policies that.
Yes, you just finish your thought, yes.
Yeah, in terms of policies that are present in the manifestos, all the political coalitions have put in a lot of thought into it. Some have offered some sort like income support, and also in terms of employment generation involving SOCSO and all that. So that I'm not too sure, however, whether the voters can understand how this will work, whether their immediate pain drive their decision rather than reading the manifesto and understanding the technicality of it, the consequences.
Cassey, thank you very much for that. Cassey Lee, their Senior Fellow at ISEAS-Yusof Ishak Institute.